Hello, Yvonne. Hello, Meet.
Hello, Kitty.
How things are going for you?
Good, good.
Okay. Um, Yvonne, do you plan to share anything today, or you vote to skip it for this time?
I guess I need to skip for this one because I
Okay.
was working on the mass spectrum
Uh-huh.
and it takes a lot of time.
Okay. Okay. We can shift everyone and maybe make two meetings on results, like postpone everything by a week, and then for your paper, it will be first iteration of results, and for others will be like
Mhm.
okay. Um, so we do have um, I don't know, probably more attendees will join. So we have three papers, and I can send the links in the chat. So I understand it is a little bit more, how to say, hectic and unusual compared to previous years. And I completely realize it. In all previous years, we were first collectively going to the conference and using the conference for crystallizing our thoughts. And after presenting and hearing feedback from the um, other attendees of the conference, it was much easier to formulate, especially the results section. But and I believe in subsequent years we'll continue a standard practice. But right now it is a little more, how to say, unusual and complicated. So I plan to say some very basic trivial words about the content of the typical result section. Basically, I will just verbalize this feedback template, and then we'll just go for about an hour reading the three manuscripts. So it is the one by Aaron, the one by Amir. Amir, I see you connected. I'm very happy to.
Hello,
Hello.
Dr. Kilin. Hello, Dr. Han. Excuse me, I do not have a camera today. I'm connected via my desktop, so.
That's fine. That's fine. At least you have a microphone, which is really great.
Yeah, I borrowed a microphone from the department, but didn't find a camera. Usually, I just use desktop, so I didn't bring my laptop today to the office.
That's okay. That's okay. Not a problem. So I didn't consult with you, but I took the draft of the manuscript that you prepared like a month or longer ago and just chopped the result section from it. So
very good. Yeah. Also, I talked to Dr. Shah. He suggested maybe if we can, because I told him that you are almost okay to submit, and he said that if we can submit with the middle of the February, that would be great. So, do you want that we can finish reviewing by that time, or?
it will go a little bit well. Organized way will go a little longer, so we maybe by the end of February is more realistic because we are really helping each other by these sessions, and I do not want to squeeze schedules of all participants to do it more frequent.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
and for Mead, it was maybe a second or no, I'm not sure if it was the first time, but one of the few first times he was writing the results section. So maybe if you go along the numeration, starting from Aaron and Amir and finish with Mead, then also Mead by looking on the other results section, you get an idea what is expected. So I'll start sharing screen, and Aaron, nice seeing you. Thank you for joining. Let me, before I get too much excited, make everyone a co-host. Just oh no, I think everyone is already a co-host. Just in case if there will be a need to share any maybe handwritten notes. Now I'm going to, I'll try to be very quick, telling some standard things about the results section, and then we'll go into the editing in maybe in silence, and then later reconvene back for discussion. So you can you and I can copy paste this list of questions to the each independent document if you find it necessary, but it's a approximate guidelines what reviewers are instructed to look at. So by looking on conclusion section and without looking on the other parts of the paper, the reader should be able to reproduce main findings of the paper. So if we try, if it finds time to do this little exercise, then the author will understand from the reviewer what has been understood. And it's always important to realize how the original idea of the author is changed in brains of any reader. There always is, and it is expected, some little amount of redundancy in all sections. So for those irresponsible reviewers who didn't read introduction, some introductory sentence why the subject is studied could be reasonable in the results section. Although the results sections are expected to be technical and, so to say, boring, it's always good if there is an eye catcher to attract attention of the reader so that some of the technical details stand out, like maybe mass spectra match the experiment, or some like photoluminescence quantum yield is higher than usual. So some properties discussed in the described in the results section may attract attention bigger than usual. This statement can be skipped or moved to the discussion, but it's applicable to complain or brag about the methods in the results, telling like we use the best available method for getting what we get. So this statement refers to introduction and conclusions. So the overall paper is often formulated as an attempt to address some challenges in the community about the methods. In the conclusions, we try to report that these challenges have been addressed. In the introduction, we pretend that we do not know the answer. And in the results section, we may say that just add a comment. This result, blah, 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 shows reaction dynamics, and it proves or disproves the hypothesis that light returns polymer back to its original precursors, something like this. So since results are written by people, for people, it could be okay to brag and tell immediately after technical description that some challenges are resolved and specifically named. like which challenges, which hypothesis is being proved by the result. The reader is expected to understand who needs the results, and if you elect to fill this form as a reader, as a reviewer, you may feel your impression based on what you read. And generally, the best review is when Mid, I see your question, and after I done scrolling very quickly, I'll answer your question. So the best review that reviewer can write is to declare like, oh, I am so jealous. Why didn't I explore this area myself? So as a reader, you may say, it's so interesting. I really want to do this area. And if the reader wholeheartedly write the statement, it encourages the author, and author should see if such feedback was or was not made, and make a goal to impress the reader to such extent that everyone wants to do the same. And the rest is not about the results. So question of or should we be conclusions? So Mead is asking difference between the results section and discussion section. The results section is mostly list of the facts, of the actual information. So it is a story, what we can observe and what we can learn from the figures. It's quite dry technical information. The discussion is reserved to describe possible discrepancy or analyze why, let's say, experiment and computation coincide. Also, it is very often the paper is returned from the journal to author for minor improvements. And when reviewer is asking questions, one can summarize answers to questions of the reviewers in the discussion section. Mid is typing results, story of what we did, the findings, and some detail of why we did it, all in format to attract the reader. Mid, it's really great. I like the way you formulated. I cannot do better than you did. Thank you. So
so today we just have the results. So the discussion is for another session, Dr. Kudin?
Right.
Okay.
And this we chop in some papers, results and discussion are combined together, but we chop them separately because a human, including our future reviewers, may have difficulty to focus on all aspects, and focusing on little piece allows to better focus and better analysis. So just in case, I'll paste this questionnaire at the end, but feel free to feel or not to feel it. So I believe that everyone got the links, and I suggest we edit and leave questions in silence, and we come back for sharing our observations and asking questions to authors in about 40-50 minutes. Okay, I'm putting the microphone on mute, and if there are some urgent aspects to discuss, please raise the voice. Okay, let me attract attention and invite everyone to come back with cameras if available, and maybe do quick discussion of the drafts. And we are a little short in time. I will need to depart in like half an hour, so let's try to use maybe 10 minutes per paper. Maybe since Mead's paper is like may need more comments, I suggest we start backwards, starting from number 3, then 2, then 1. So maybe let's focus on the first paragraph and check if there were comments on it. You do have any suggestions or comments to the first paragraph?
I guess just some wording.
Okay. I also wonder, there is analysis of orbitals, but there is no analysis of density of states. Maybe one you may decide to add maybe a couple of sentences telling how similar, different actual density of states curves are. Let's go to everything that relates to figure 2. I see several comments from Yoon. Would you please summarize and suggest what Mead may want to do for this paragraph?
I guess in this paragraph, so his explanation is homolumal transition has lowest transition energy, which is of course obvious, but I guess there is no extra information beyond that.
Okay. And so you suggest some to shorten it and show maybe some only non-trivial information.
Yes.
Do you see any value in the remaining highlighted area?
There is some discussion about the location of charge and also relationship between transition probability. But I guess it's not very obvious, not very clear.
Okay, but is there any suggestions to which there are like what Mead may do to the text to himself? Like, is there anything missed or what one should add or remove?
Maybe just to simplify.
Okay. Mead, and feel free to accept, reject, and so say your comments back to suggestions.
Yeah, I'm just because the way you guys are writing these results are a bit different than what I'm used to. So I'm just kind of trying to absorb all your input right now before I have any opinions.
Okay. So there is, I think there are no questions. Oh, Yoon requests details about experiment for a paragraph about figure 3. And for paragraph about figure 4, Aaron is asking, did the fragmentation occurred or not yet for the text about the figure 4? Mead, can you answer?
Yeah, so I noticed on I believe it was Amir's paper, he kind of did like an overall. In the first paragraph, he explained what all of his figures were kind of generally going to be, like the overall perspective on his results section. So maybe I could do a quick overview paragraph explaining that I'm analyzing DOS, absorption, UV vis, and then the trajectory. And so if I referred to it in figure 4, then I would have already summed it up at that point.
Okay, but is it does figure 4 refers to both absorption spectra before and after fragmentation?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so we can add something like right.
So highlighting that it was after fragmentation occurring. Okay.
Aaron, does it answer your curiosity?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is an interesting and long several paragraphs about figure 5. So Yoon is suggesting to use consistent bond cutoff length, and maybe if needed to reduce the figure, or even would you please verbalize what is suggestion to mean in this aspect?
I guess here my point is the cutoff length should be dependent on the types of atoms. So you should have a set of different values.
Okay.
For example, for carbon-carbon, the boundary is about 1.5 angstrom. So if you use 1.6, which is smaller, at 1.6 you can only consider a bond elongation instead of fragmentation.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Mead, and also let me add a comment. The VMD, Babel, and JMO treat cut-off distances in a different way. VMD uses the same cutoff for each pair of atoms, and JMO and Babel do set up cutoff lengths based on the type of elements. But overall, this discussion belongs more to methodology rather than to result.
Yeah, well, for clarification with Dr. Hahn, so it seems like if I'm getting quite a bit different, when I saw the bonds, if I increase the length from 1.6 to 1.7, the bonds get considerably, let's say, overcrowded. You would, with the a benzene ring, you're going to see carbons that shouldn't be connected are connected. And so it was more for visual effects. And I see where you're coming at, but I mean, could I just explain it as a visual explanation more than anything? It quote unquote looked better at 1.6. That was kind of why I chose that number.
So if it didn't affect your results, if it is only visual, then I wouldn't highlight it. I wouldn't underline it in the results section.
But I don't know. I go into detail of what the fragments are visually versus what you would see in Open Babel or something, or excuse me, our mass spectrum. So I feel like it's necessary to have that. So I mean, I understand it should be in the method section, but I mean, that rationale needs to kind of be discussed still. Well, we can talk about it later if there's not enough time right now.
Did you got enough answer to understand position of mid? Okay, maybe we should set up a meeting on that, or request me to put it in writing. And
Yeah.
my suggestion is to discuss it in methods rather than in results.
Yep.
Okay, so then in the next couple of paragraphs about figure 5, it's really great you are mentioning you did label the compounds, the fragments, and you give their chemical names. But if there will be non-chemical audience reading, maybe you may create a table of all labeled compounds, and then in the text just refer like compounds are labeled according to the order they appear during reaction. Just give some system how to interpret and understand. Do you think it could be reasonable?
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
You think? And also, maybe I'm not insisting, but maybe it could be reasonable if for some most important reactions, maybe the reaction of first bond breaking, one writes down chemical equation, like before and after the reaction with an arrow. Again, just consider if you find it reasonable. Discussion of figure 6. You would suggest to use the same bond length criteria in each piece of software. So I think it is continuation of the previous discussion. And I suggest it should be a paragraph in the method section when discussing how the mass spectra were computed and how the visual fragments were derived. Okay. Okay, and for the rest of the section, there were no more comments. Please consider to download this version with comments and keep working on it at your personal computer.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. You know how to download things from the Google Docs, right? You just click and download.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, as long as okay, so the link you sent me connects to the most updated version, right? And so if I have that link,
yes, but
and I refresh it,
you should work on your paper on your laptop, not online. This Google Docs is a tool for all of us adding comments simultaneously, right?
Yep. So I have the comments and I'm downloading it. So yep, I got it.
Good. And then implementing changes as you like or dislike. Okay. Let's go. Thank you. Let's go to the work of Amir. So I added a couple of comments across the manuscript about being careful with doping and charge carrier injection. So in order to avoid confuses in readers, I suggest one mentions injection first and doping second, because in fact what is done is injection. And after, do you find it reasonable?
Yeah, for instance, we can say in parentheses, maybe it's kind of mimicking that.
Yes, and mention injection first, and then mention give a comment that there is an analogy between injection and doping, because some qualitative trends on the consequences in the electronic structure are similar.
Sure. Good.
Excitation is not only for conductivity; it's also for photovoltaics, and this PDPP is used for photovoltaics.
I will address that also. Sure.
So Aaron is suggesting to think twice about this geometry excitation.
Yeah, we discussed that in the figures previous meeting. I will address all those comments at once.
Okay, and I'm echoing Mead, who gave credit to Amir for this introductory paragraph being really well organized and helping me to read the rest of the section.
Thank you. That was your suggestion, so I appreciate your
I don't remember it. Those of frontier orbitals, it sounds strange.
Yeah, for sure. It's a range near the band gap, so frontier orbital are fallen in this range. I will revise that sentence.
Aaron suggests to fix this, I would say, oxymoron of precise approximation. It's,
yeah, very good point. Thank you, Aaron.
Also, Aaron suggests to remove this semi-N type. Probably you are trying to express that the injection and doping have similar influence on the electronic structure, but the word semi automatically moves thinking of people to semiconductors.
I see. Okay, I will address that. Here, your sentence, not an analogy. You mean add a sentence here to discuss how they are related to each other? Related to them?
I would just keep like insert this little sentence and keep it here.
Oh, okay.
But you can revise. You are the
okay.
This paper. I just suggest to tell the mechanical origin, because population of orbitals is changing. The former subgap becomes gap.
Okay.
The extensive explanation of experiment could go into introduction, and then it will make result section shorter and easier to read. But again, it's your choice on the suggestion. Put injection first, and then tell the idea.
Yeah, I will revise all of them.
Again, maybe move the long explanation of the experiments to introduction, and here just add reference would be very good. Yuan is asking, how you actually compute the conductivity?
Actually, no, we just addressed maybe here it referred to the band gap decrease. So
okay, so please have a look on the very recent paper by Yuan, and we can discuss it later. So in the very recent paper in Journal of Chemical Letters, Yuan is using the absorption spectrum as an approximate criterion for the conductivity.
okay,
So you do not need to change anything right now, but just maybe add a comment that computation of conductivity is possible, and just looking on the subgaps, one can give quick qualitative assessment.
Okay, sure. And for this blue comment, can you a little help me or clarify me, Dr. Killian? I'm not still good.
The red thing, I do not see it wrong, but it looks unusual. So it even suspicious. So maybe mention about possibility that your polymer can exist in singlet and triplet state, and promotion of system into triplet state is needed for some applications, and therefore we treat it here with spin polarized thing.
Okay, I will check.
Yulin is asking why spin up and spin down components differ.
Good point. Actually, I have no idea right now.
So
I just pay attention to this, that they are decreased. Both of them are decreased compared to the grounded state. But why one of them is larger? I don't know. Can you help me with that?
Well, I do not have the exact answer, but I suspect that the occupation patterns in alpha and beta components are different. So different pairs of original orbitals are occupied and unoccupied. So different subgaps contribute to these numbers. Like for singlet, they should be the same, but for anything except singlet, it's quite natural.
Okay, thank you.
Does it sound reasonable for you? Okay. And Amir, if you add, probably by looking on the figure, it is self-evident, but adding brief verbal comment will help the paper to pass the criticism of reviewers.
Okay, sure.
Aaron suggested it's excited rather than exciting.
Oh, sure.
It's definitely exciting for us, but
okay, I will revise.
I don't know about provokes. Maybe everyone else is heavy, but I never. Maybe it's a good word here, but I never.
Okay.
In this context.
Sure, I will revise.
Which color 800 nanometers? You may look into like color view, how to interpret nanometers and mention it, because we are not yet in the literal quantitative agreement. And if we just mention whatever like red or orange color, it will be easier to discuss.
Okay.
If anyone knows from top of the head, please help me. So about 900 is the border between visible and infrared. So it should be something reddish. Here, I do not understand why you quote ultraviolet. Ultraviolet is much shorter wave, like smaller than 300 nanometers. Here, maybe you mean visible or border between visible and infrared.
Okay, yeah, I think I make mistake here. I will double check.
This sampling over K points and qualitative agreement looks like main discovery. Maybe I'm not insisting, but one can probably highlight.
You mean extend this sentence and emphasize more?
Maybe, or yep, just
okay. I got you.
Here for this color also, I would mention the color. Like if the experiment predicts experiment gives red, this one is more to like maybe orange. Just sticking on the. If we speak about the colors, then people will be less critical to three significant figures in nanometers.
So you mean delete the numbers and just
No,
mention?
do not do it for now. But please try to find out which color this wavelength corresponds to.
Okay.
Again, not UV. It should be different in French. And Aaron judges your work as systematic study of the physical properties of a popular polymer. And thinks that agreement with the experiment is good. So you have your positive comments from a reviewer.
Thank you. Yeah, also Aaron, you and Aaron suggestion maybe give me some idea to change the title of the paper.
Are there any more comments to Amir's paper? If no, let's go to Aaron's.
I have just a general question. The coherency or arrangement of the figures and subsequently arrangement of the result section is okay for instance, for readers? For instance, from going from A to Z, or is it right?
I cannot speak for others, but it is okay for me.
Okay. Thank you.
And yeah, it looks reasonable. So let's go to the work of Aaron. S states, maybe you plan to define them earlier, and here I just see it and suggest to comment. Amir does a lot of work in suggesting some punctuation, commas. It's a good introduction of a context. Here it is not clear if you refer to crystalline, undistorted original structure as a reference point. It sounds like this 90 degrees refers to ideal cubic structure as a reference point, right?
Yeah, so the general, yeah, I'm just trying to reference the general octahedral coordination in the crystal.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
I have some question on figure S1.
S1.
Yes.
Okay.
Right here. So I guess my question is related to the physical salt and the chemical salt. So how did you get this information? Did you just do the bond length analysis?
I based it off the partial density of states.
Okay.
So basically, like some species on the surface show chemical bonding to the lead, or anything that binds to the lead is chemically bonding. While anything that's in this A+ site doesn't have any chemical bonding, and that shows up in the partial density of states where there's no contributions from cesium or ammonium.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. So again, Amir is asking what is ideal octahedral coordination?
So that, yeah. So if you put lead in the center, and then if you put 6 atoms around it octahedrally, like it should form like a square and a plane, and then I guess it's hard to describe, but basically all the bond angles should be like 90 degrees or 180 degrees for like for a perfect octahedral coordination.
So it's
And then
kind of
I
optimal
specify
geometry.
ideal, or say that again?
So it's kind of relaxed geometry or optimal geometry, right?
Right, or it's
Let me add. Ideal octahedral is like a concept, irrelevant, introduced before any calculation. So
right.
if there is a central atom and 6 ligands, when all degrees are 90 or 180, then it is defined as ideal octahedral.
Thank you.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Maybe reference for this change of gap with compression of the sample would be reasonable here.
Mm-hmm.
So manually create surface defects. Amir is asking what are the details of this defect, specifics. Does one delete atoms or insert a dislocation? So to my understanding, it just refers to the defects defined just earlier, maybe even in a line before, but I think Amir is requesting more practical way how they are created. Or Aaron, please try to address.
Yeah, so the defects that I'm focusing on are vacancy defects. So that means basically just a lack of atoms where you would expect them to be. So essentially I just take my optimized structure with no defects and then just remove atoms from the surface where I want the vacancies to be.
Amir, does it make sense?
Yes, thank you.
I was really happy to see this reference to common observations. So it's exactly what I was trying to explain in this feedback list of possible merits of so great sentence. Table 1. It looks like you just mention and do not refer to it. If it is not needed, one can move it to the supporting information, or if one needs it here, maybe add a couple of sentences what one can learn from it. Dependence of the reaction barrier on the presence or absence of excitation, to me, seems most important finding of the paper. It's already highlighted, but I don't know. Maybe keep highlighting it in other sections if it is appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
So you're placing these really nice chemical equations. Would it be reasonable to put them like in display mode with numbers, and later on in the final, after the method section with actual formulas will be added, then put it in the consecutive numbering, so that if eventually one needs to refer to one of these equations in other section, they will be labeled.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I think I do refer to them multiple times through the manuscript. So yeah, that would make sense.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Otherwise, one can say, like, flip 5 pages back and look the equation in the middle of the page. Okay. Reference. So, yeah, I just copied here the observation about the barrier and connection to photoluminescence. So, I think we are done, and I need to depart on this hard schedule. So please consider to download these versions to your local computer and keep editing them towards final paper. And when I suggest we slightly slow down, and next Tuesday we do another revision of the results section. Then we will slightly shift everything by 1 week, but since results is the most important part of the paper, then we will perfectionize it. Any objections?
No. Would I have a question regarding the bond lengths. Should I just talk to Dr. Han, or do you want to be involved too, Dr. Kim?
Just talk to Dr. Han, and my suggestion is just to dedicate a paragraph about bond lengths in the methods section.
Yeah, okay. That's what I was going for. Okay.
Okay, so many thanks for both your authors and reviewers' role. Let me know if we need to talk one-to-one, maybe at other time. I need to be in a class 1 minute ago, so I apologize for terminating it quickly.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.